Mason Garcia, and I go to Cave Language Academy, and I'm in 8th grade.
I think everything is probably a type of art if you make it. When we went to like the studios, I think it was really fun when we were doing that and just meeting all the different artists. I like looking at like all the different spray paint. Like Lady Hensby was probably one of my favorites.
My name is Aurelie. I'm in 8th grade and I go to Hogan Middle School. It's a way people can express themselves without having to speak much. After being in the program, I was able to learn a lot about the different types of ways people make public art.
My name is Jessamine. I go to Jesse Bethel High School and I am a freshman.
So it was definitely fun to try to get to paint with them and actually do volunteer work. That still felt really fun to do. It's something we chose to do. It's something we came up with the idea to do. Art is somewhere you can represent other people. Through art, they can actually really show what their perspective is. It's definitely something that represents not just them, but maybe a bunch of different people without them knowing.
Just hello, 1, 2, 3.
Hi.
Yeah. And then if you would like,
Hello.
there's a way that you can actually request to speak through the chair.
Oh, how?
If you press the speaker button to turn off, you see the
Members of the public, staff, and commissioners, I'll call the meeting to order. We have a quorum. Let's do the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Could we please do the roll call?
Thank you. Chair Tibet,
Here.
Commissioner Brazenio, Commissioner Farrell, Commissioner Gaddes,
Present.
Commissioner Jones,
here.
Commissioner McDonald,
Here.
Commissioner Santos.
Here.
Thank you.
Well done.
Quick question, is Commissioner Gaddes allowed to, not Gaddes, I'm sorry, is she allowed to join later? Presenia, yes. Thank you. So, community forum?
Thank you, Chair. Currently, we do not have any members of the public currently signed up for the community forum. However, I did start a 2-minute timer, which is reflected on the top left corner of your screens for those interested members to sign up either at the kiosks in the back or if they're on Zoom to raise their hands online. At the conclusion of that timer, if anybody does sign up, I'll be sure to let you know. But in the meantime, feel free to carry on with the agenda.
Thank you. Consent calendar and approval of agenda. Item 5. Approval of May 20th, 2025 meeting minutes. If the commissioners have reviewed.
And again, this can be done in one motion. Approval of the agenda and the minutes can be done in
Okay.
one motion.
So moved?
I second.
Chair Tibet,
Yes.
Commissioner Brazennio, Commissioner Gaddes,
Yes.
Commissioner Jones,
Yes.
Commissioner McDonald,
Yes.
Commissioner Santos.
Yes.
Thank you.
Item number 6, a report of the committee board secretary.
Just a brief reminder that to please use your microphone. We had a hard time picking up some of the comments last time, and then we also do have Brazennio joining us later, so it's important for them to be able to hear everyone's comment. Thank you.
And item 7, city attorney's report.
Nothing to report this evening.
Thank you, sir. Item 8, report of the city council liaison.
Through the Chair, the council liaison is also currently not online at this time.
Okay, thank you. And number 9, report of the chairperson and members of the committee board. I do not have anything to report. Anyone else? Thank you. Moving on to the action calendar. Item 10A is electing a vice chair for the committee.
I would like to nominate Commissioner Jones for vice chair. I make a motion to nominate Commissioner Jones as vice chair.
Well, you make the nomination, you don't have to make a motion to do that. If you want to elect him, you would make a motion to elect him as the vice chair.
I accept.
He accepted, so you can make a motion.
I move that we elect Commissioner Jones as vice chair of the Measure P Commission.
I'll second. Yes?
Commissioner Gaddes,
Yes.
Commissioner Jones,
Yes.
Commissioner McDonald,
Yes.
Commissioner Santos.
Yes.
It carries. Thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you, I think.
Thank you for accepting. Item 10, B, we have adopting a resolution recommending, or in the alternative, not recommending, that the city council authorizes $1,501,862 of Measure P funds to partially fund an agreement with Felton Institute for the iHeart program, and I believe we have Deputy Chief Knight.
Through the Chair, just wanted to give you a heads up. If you could just move your microphone a little bit closer to your mic, we're getting some comments about folks online not being able to hear
Okay,
you.
thank you.
Hi, I had a comment. I raised my hand, but so I'm a founder of a nonprofit, and from my understanding through talking to legal attorneys, there doesn't seem to be a conflict of interest, but in the effort to be as cautious as possible, I'd like to recuse myself from this vote. So I'm going to step into the back.
Good evening, Chair and members of the Measure P Oversight Committee, new members as well, welcome. I am your favorite presenter tonight, so those of you that are new, nice to meet you. Unfortunately, I missed you guys last meeting. I was away at training, and but I did watch some of the meeting. And my goal here tonight is to add on to a presentation that was already presented that evening. So not looking to regurgitate a whole bunch of the stuff that you guys already heard. I wanted to just go over some things that were asked by the committee. Some things we were able to provide, some things we were able to find out that I can verbally present some kind of high-level data to you folks tonight. I have a list that was provided to me in which the committee asked for some type of comparative cost analysis that I have some information about at a high level. There was an impact assessment of the program. Maybe might need a little clarification of exactly what we're looking for in that regard. The existing iHeart contract, which we did provide as part of the staff report packet. All the 90-day reports from iHeart that we have our program manager here to answer if there's any questions regards to those that were provided. And any MOUs with community partners related to iHeart. So if there was any of those, we provided them. If there's not, or if there needs to be some clarification, I could possibly answer some questions regarding those items. So I'll just start out by telling you that one of the things when we started the iHeart program in April, a little bit over a year ago, we asked that they provide periodic reports. Those have always been available on our website. Hopefully you and the committee have had a chance to review some of those. They do contain a good amount of information about some of the successes and some of the challenges of the program. So if we have any questions regarding those, we can answer those between the three of us, Ray Vaughn Williamson as well. We did a very rough cost analysis related to, as it was my understanding, some committee members had a question about how much does it cost for iHeart versus how much it costs if we were to send police officers. As you guys can probably imagine, my opinion is that's a apples to oranges comparison, mainly because iHeart staff are boots on the ground, but they have specialized skills and techniques related to being an alternative response to the police. So that's kind of the point of the program, is to have an alternative response to uniformed police officers. However, in comparing boots on the ground like a lieutenant, police officers, to kind of somewhat draw parallels to the iHeart team, those boots on the ground comparison shows that if the police were to be doing these jobs, it would be about 62% more expensive. So that's the very rough, when you compare, like what we did, what the methodology was, is we compare fully loaded cost of a police officer, salary, benefits, et cetera, comparison to the boots on the ground iHeart salary benefits comparison. That's as close to an apples and oranges comparison I can get. But again, wanted to reiterate that that really isn't the intent of iHeart. It is a alternative response model. One of the things I wanted to point out as a positive is this program is not, these types of programs are not everywhere. There is cities that are trying to do this. We are very proud of the program over this last year, although there's been challenges and hurdles and now funding sources to sustain the program. That's not uncommon for these type of programs. And our program iHeart program has caught national attention. Some of my staff are going to be presenting in a couple of weeks to the CIT Assist program. That is a nationwide organization of crisis intervention practitioners, and they want to hear a presentation from iHeart from the police perspective. iHeart themselves has presented to many different organizations and places. They are asking from the police perspective. So that's something that's very good that I think we should kind of be mindful of. One of the things we looked at is response times. From looking at the 90-day reports, you have iHeart's response time from when they get the call to when they respond. That's usually anywhere from somewhere under 10 minutes. It's a pretty good response time. I do also wanted to point out that in the last almost 4 months or so, we have had a renewed push from our police staff to really utilize iHeart in every way possible that we can to really get the most effectiveness from the program. That has come through good fostered partnerships between iHeart and the police department as we've learned what they're good at, what they think is dangerous, what we think is dangerous. And that has caused, well, I was really surprised to hear these statistics. If you look at February to almost end of May 23rd to be exact, in comparison to the previous years since iHeart has been here, we looked at 4 different call types that are the type of calls that iHeart could either respond to or be a co-response. Our response times to those type of calls, which are suicide threats, mentally disturbed subjects, welfare checks, and family disturbances, there was a drastic improvement to our response times. Now, again, I want a disclaimer, that's commingled between iHeart, between police, but these are the overall response times that we report out every month to the community. When it comes to suicide threats, from April of 24 to February 5th, it was 6.3 hours was the response time. From just February to the end of May, it dropped to 3.6 hours. That's a 43% improvement in the response time. When you talked about mentally disturbed subject calls, we had a 42% improvement in response times when looking at that the last 3.5 to almost 4 months. Welfare checks stayed about the same. It went from 4 hours to 3.1 hours, a little bit of a drop. And then, this is the one I really wanted to report on. As we have found that the iHeart program can be a mitigating strategy and an alternative response in some family disturbances, not necessarily when it's a domestic violence, when a crime has occurred and we're gonna have to make an arrest, but just general family disturbances, we really started using iHeart as a possible option for an alternative response in the last 3.5 to 4 months. And we saw a 64% drop in our improvement, if you will, in our response times. That went from normally, as a police department, it took us on average 9.1 hours to respond to those type of calls. And in the last 3.5 to 4 months, it's dropped to 3.2 hours. That's a substantial, I deal with response times in my whole career. You don't see that type of drastic change in response times. I have to contribute that significantly to the iHeart program. So that's just some data that I thought would be helpful that was in supplement to what you guys heard at the last meeting. I talked to you about the possible cost savings if you compare apples to oranges to a police response versus an iHeart response. The last thing I want to just touch on is the April to April 1 year statistics on calls for service. We had our patrol officers responded to approximately, again, these are down and dirty, we did it real quick this week, so, you know, plus or minus, 8,493 calls for service that our patrol officers responded to. In that same period last year, April to April, we found that iHeart, in fact, responded to 1,781 calls for service. That's actually more than it was reported on their 90-day report, because what we also found is there was about a little over 400 calls in which we were using iHeart as a supplement to our already police response. That was where we would have an incident, and the police resolved that incident, or there was some culmination of that incident, and then we called in iHeart after the fact. So it wasn't necessarily a call for service for iHeart, it was a call for service for police, and we have then brought in iHeart to enhance our service. So, and something of note, the last thing I want to note is, of that 1,781 calls that iHeart was either responded to or was a part of, only 100 of those calls did a police officer have to be there on site. That is significant. So that means that almost all of the calls that iHeart responds to, a police officer does not have to go to. So that's a very big disparity. And to be frank, because of our staffing, our extreme staffing challenges, these are calls that we would not get to sometimes at all. Or the response was so delayed that whatever that issue was that was present was probably gone or whatnot. So those are some data that I wanted to, that we were able to get kind of real quickly that I found. I was surprised by some of it, pleasantly surprised, if you will, Other than that, the material that you were able to review, I'm sure there's some questions or information that you would want from that. Before I finish, though, I'd like to pass it to Curtis Penn from Felton Institute to see if there's anything else he'd like to add.
Thank you, DC Knight. Appreciate it. Good evening, members of the committee. What I want to also highlight and piggyback on what DC Knight has mentioned in terms of the reduction in response time, 64%. What is perhaps not discussed is what is taking place once iHeart arrives on scene. Because unlike EMS or law enforcement, they just don't show up and leave. They actually do follow-up. They actually provide long-term target case management to address the immediate and long-term need. And that's whether it's substance use disorder, mental health crises, or a medical issue, non-emergency medical issue, obviously. So even though you have these shortened response times, and then you can couple that with the time that iHeart is able to spend with the individual to support them, wherever they're going through, the trauma. They not only work with the individual, but they work with the community. They work with the family. So it has a kind of holistic component attached to it. I know some of the folks had mentioned the presentation. It was a little long, the PowerPoint that I submitted. But what I wanted to also highlight, because one of the gentlemen wanted to know the fiscal impact of iHeart. And so in my research, I did do my due diligence, and what iHeart does is it delivers significant long-term fiscal benefits to the city of Vallejo through cost avoidance and system deficiencies. And what I mean by that, iHeart uses proactive measures to prevent incurring costs that would otherwise be incurred in the future. And so, as DC Knight has just mentioned, not only the drop in response time, but if iHeart is not going to those calls, then there's a strong likelihood that EMS or law enforcement is responding to these non-emergency calls that takes away from their ability to do public safety and respond to calls that are in their purview. And there's a cost associated with, if they were going to these non-emergency calls, there's a cost associated with that in comparison to iHeart. So when someone calls 911 and the call is being screened through dispatch, EMS and law enforcement doesn't necessarily say, well, what's the severity of the crises? And if it doesn't fall in our purview, we just won't respond. They actually will respond. Now, their response time, as noted, will be longer, but eventually they will show up, and that's cost is associated with it. And once they do show up, they're not able to provide the high-level mental health services, long-term services that iHeart staff are able to do. And again, there's costs associated with that as well. iHeart helps to reduce the operational burden and associated costs on these high-cost emergency response systems like EMS and law enforcement. iHeart also creates a more sustainable public safety ecosystem. What I mean by that is, as DC Knight was talking about comparing apples to oranges, now you have EMS responding to calls that are in their scope of work. You have law enforcement responding to calls that are in their scope of work, emergency calls. And then you have iHeart responding to non-emergency calls that's in their scope of work, thereby making the public safety ecosystem better. The other thing I want to talk about is measurable savings. Savings in emergency personnel time. If you have law enforcement going out to these calls that provide more of a restorative justice, social justice lens, which is not in their purview or scope of work, that can be burdensome, right? And then, therefore, it impacts their ability to be on point in their job. The other is the emergency vehicles, the cost for these vehicles to respond to these non-emergency calls. But again, they're just not going to show up. The response time will go up, but eventually they will show up, and there's a cost associated with that. There's also a cost associated with emergency room transports. The longer it takes for someone to get to a call, there's a stronger likelihood that that person very well may need to be hospitalized because the incident was not addressed in a timely manner. Now, a lot of the calls we go on have both chronic and acute. What I mean by chronic may be long-term. So we may go on a call where a lot of the homeless individuals are experiencing asthma, experiencing congestive heart failure, hepatitis, and they've connected to the hospital, need to be reconnected because of the barrier that is oftentimes associated with people who do not know how to navigate the system, and that can take some time. That's what iHeart helps to do. And there are costs associated with lowering the acuity of emergency hospitalization to these individuals. In addition, there's a cost associated with lowering the recidivism rate. Instead of people having to go into jail or prison or incarceration and the trial and all those things, there are costs associated with it, where if you respond in a reasonable amount of time, that issue or concern can be addressed to where it does not have to be escalated to where they have to go to a hospital or be arrested. And the other thing I wanted to point out is DC-9, and I don't think I have to mention this, just the cost of law enforcement in general as compared to iHeart. And we are an arm of Vallejo PD, just like the Sheriff Department is an arm of Vallejo PD. They operate obviously in a different vein than iHeart, and we all know the costs associated with the Sheriff Department supporting Vallejo PD, much different than the cost of iHeart supporting Vallejo PD, although they're in different lens and different veins, of course, right? But there's a cost associated with it, and I would say that with Vallejo PD having the opportunity and being able to have the support of iHeart, it prevents a more stronger presence of the Sheriff Department. Whereas the Sheriff Department, I think there were 17 officers that full-time staffing that are supporting Vallejo PD. With iHeart, that may have very well doubled.
Through the chair, this is Regina Bersinio, Commissioner Bersinio. I wanted to, so you are partnering via a contract, not via any staffing through Vallejo. And I just want to make sure that that point is clear, that you are a contractor and not actual staffing through Vallejo.
Yes, that's correct.
Right. And it doesn't matter what they're doing with the sheriff. I get it. You know, they're trying to supplement for priority 1, priority 2 type of calls with the sheriff, but you're more the priority 3. Is that correct?
Absolutely. I was just referring to that
Yep.
based on the ecosystem that I mentioned, the public safety ecosystem, where you have VPD, Vallejo Police Department, you have EMS, you have Sheriff, and you have iHeart. It's all part of the totality or holistic public safety ecosystem.
Agreed.
All right. That's the only reason why I highlighted
and
that.
it's about, yeah. But yeah,
Thanks.
just to stay on the point that you're, I believe, an essential safety concern for Vallejo that helps address people that are in need, immediate need, before they become a priority 1 or 2 type of situation, which we are already overloaded and trying to supplement via the sheriff and the hiring of Vallejo PD. So it's an essential safety concern, which is why we're here at the table trying to see if we can do the funds for 1 year, while Vallejo, someone in Vallejo, I don't know who that is, the Vallejo staffing, figures out how to get funds going forward after this 1 year.
Yes, thank you for that. I just want to just say one thing. When we get dispatched to 911, and it's also in our purview, in our scope, things change from the time we're dispatched to the time we arrive. It's a 9.4 minutes, so things can absolutely change. The calls are screened, but it's important to note that when we go out on these calls, we don't know what we're going to encounter until we actually arrive. So these calls are extremely challenging, and the staff are trained to address these calls. So thank you. No, that's it.
And totally agree. Just like anybody who's dispatched to any type of call, I absolutely totally agree.
And the last thing I want to say, and I think this will be it, and we'll take you guys' questions. I kind of want to just drive it home, the context of how we came here. We were supplementing this process with grants. We continue to supplement it with grants. We've actually applied for, I've told some folks that were in the previous presentations, we've applied for a $1 million grant that would be spread over 3 years that would also supplement the iHeart program. It won't fully fund it, as you know, looking at the dollar amount. That is something we continue to do and will continue to do, but we are asking the committee to support the funding that is needed to sustain this program for the next upcoming year. And just for some back context, although I do think it is an appropriate use, just in my opinion, is an appropriate use of Measure P funds because this is a program that is over and above what we do provide. It's not salary and benefits of City of Vallejo employees. And we came to this committee and presented the iHeart program at the request of the Measure P committee. So this was actually what I thought at the time was coming together in a very good fashion when it was coming to this point where we needed to find that money, and it has extreme amount of community support. I believe it has city council support, and it is what I had said before to the other Measure P committee members, it is a program that I truly believe in my career is moving the needle and impacting people's lives, and I think it's really important. So I just kind of wanted to kind of lay that context and backstory of how we got here.
And I completely agree with you. I think you're moving the needle in a positive direction.
Thank you, Chief Knight. Welcome. Commissioner Briceño, thank you for joining us. And I think Commissioner Jones wants to remark.
Yes, good evening. I have one question. If I recall correctly, and I think Deputy Chief may have the answer, last week, or even with the grants that you're applying for now, that may happen during this next fiscal year, that could it be used this year as well?
Yes. So the only grant that we currently have is a federal Connect and Protect grant through BJA. That has a total of $326,000 allocated to Felton Institute over 2 years. The first year is just under $36,000, and the second year is $290,000. It was structured that way because the thought was we were going to have more money that would be stretched out, that would help get us through this next fiscal year. That was also obtained by an enhancement grant through Tabby Moms and adding them as a local organization to enhance the program. We don't currently have the SKIP grant, although we have applied for it. So
this is the reason I was asking, because and correct me if I'm wrong, because Chief said that if you got something in, the money that you did not use for Measure P will be given back. So what I would like to see is that not necessarily the money be given back, that if you happen to use a grant this year, after you get the 1.5 from us, right, that whatever money that isn't used of the 1.5 million carry on over to next year, so that come June or the beginning of the fiscal year, we're not coming back with the same problem. There's no such thing as, oh, we didn't use the money, give it back to Measure P. That the money carry on. That if you do, whatever grants you get and can be applied to iHeart that you're applying for, if it can be applied this year, by all means apply it. And then whatever, if there's a such thing as money left over out of the 1.5, that money be carried to the, is that the 26, 27 fiscal year? So that's one of the.
Yeah, so that might be an order of operations question for the finance director. That sounds totally reasonable to me. There is nothing that's going to stop us from continuing to try to apply for different grants. I don't know if the chief did mention it. One of the things I've learned over the last several years about grants is grants are really easy to get to start programs. They're easy to get to enhance programs. They're hard to get to just sustain programs. So that's why we as a city need to determine how are we going to sustain iHeart if we want to keep it. As it stands, Measure P appears to be a good mechanism right now. When we start talking about long-term funding, if we want to keep iHeart, that's a larger discussion, and what you say sounds totally reasonable. Any grant that we're eligible for, we will apply for it. We have a proven model that we can write up for any type of grant. Sometimes grants, though, are very specific of what you have to do relation to that and how much money you get for it. But yes.
Good evening. Thank you for your presentation. It was great. 2 questions. The first question I have is that you said from April to April, you had 8,493 service calls, and you said iHeart took 1,781. Is that 1,781 coming from the 8,493, or is that an addition?
That is in addition, and to preface, that's not all the calls. That is calls of welfare checks, mental health checks, suicide attempts, family disturbances, and trespassing or elderly assistance. So I kind of didn't preface this. That's not all of our calls, but we were reporting out on the total number of calls that are similar to what iHeart would respond to, and that is in addition.
In addition to the 8,493?
That, which would be a total of about a little over 10,000.
Okay, that's what I needed to know.
That is my understanding, yes.
Okay.
Based on this chart.
And one more question. For the staffing of iHeart, what is the staffing and what are the positions? How many people do you have and what positions do they hold?
So the staffing is around 7 FTEs. So 7 full-time employees, right? That includes EMTs and community response specialists. And one thing I want to make note of is the EMTs have community response specialist training. They are just not EMTs. They're community response specialists with EMT certification. In addition to that, the staff also have CPR training and mental health first aid training. In addition to those staff.
How many do you have of each?
Between EMTs and community response specialists?
Yes.
I believe it's 3 EMTs and 4 community response specialists.
Okay.
Yep. And then we have obviously the administrative staff, which is the mental health rehabilitation specialist, the data administrative analyst, as well as the program manager.
So that's 7.
Yeah.
10.
10 in total.
Okay.
The budget's actually for 9.8. It gets a little dicey when they dedicate partial FTEs to this program. So that was in the original packet. It's 9.8 technically.
Okay.
FTEs.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Who's 14? Okay, speaking list had number 14 on it. I was just asking. So I wanted to say I 100% concur with Commissioner Jones' point, and while reiterating, just to expand it slightly, is that in the past when we've moved or not moved different requests, we came to conclude that if the funds are not being used for a particular purpose, they should be returned back to Measure P funds. So Commissioner Jones's point is that we are working on having the request approved, and whether you use it within 1 year or 2 years, the money stays. There's not money coming back. However, we're also asking that somehow
either the police department or the council figure out how to budget for this for the upcoming years, 2026-27 budget. We had concluded prior to the two new commissioners stepping on that it would be just one-time funding. It's an emergency funding for iHeart. That's what it was. Thank you. Any comments from the public, or we actually have the commissioner who has a statement she would like to read?
Okay. By the way, I'm Commissioner Santos, and I'm a newly appointed District 4 Commissioner. I uphold the integrity and credibility of Measure P Oversight Committee entrusted to us by the Council and the taxpayers. We are to be transparent and accountable to the taxpayers. We are under the scrutiny of the public and are expected to conduct ourselves beyond reproach. Clear communication, not compromising, or no conflicting explanation. Let's go back to the history. I don't know the history because I'm just new here, and we should live by example. We serve without material or monetary compensation. Our most important compensation is the public trust. We are called oversight, not to overlook what is not aligned with the purpose we are called to do, and to meticulously look into every detail of any lapses or violation will serve as precedents. As a taxpayer who happens to be one of the commissioners, I face challenges and struggles on some issues regarding our agenda for the last week. Surely we are guided by and abide with the Constitution of the United States, Constitution of the California, and to add the Brown Act and the Measure P principles. I have nothing against the programs and services of iHeart. They did a great job to address the major issues, important and at the same time urgent. I appreciated bringing with you persons to give their testimonies how you helped them, the rehabilitative aspect and the early prevention or intervention. I also appreciate the humility of the Vallejo Police Department in honestly admitting their limitations and needing outside interventions such as iHeart. I have several struggles. Honestly, I cannot comprehend the explanation or justification of some issues. How can this be explained without raising doubt or violation of public trust? In my interview for the appointment last April, I emphasized asset-based community development, tapping the resources within the community to assure sustainability, self-contained, self-reliant program. I believe this is more economical and they will feel their own program and feel important that they contribute for the best interest of the city. Build network or association of all community-based organizations, including nonprofit and faith-based organizations, and group together with similar programs and services. In my experience in the Philippines with the network, we created a symbiotic relationship, unselfishly helping one another, even the newly organized nonprofit, to flourish. We conducted several trainings to enhance our program and services. We even tap resources like UNICEF, World Bank, and other funding agencies or foundations. We have fundraising also. I have started gathering information of community base from their website, but this is not sufficient. Call them all and sit down and discuss what they can offer. This may take a long time. Once it is in place, everybody will be happy, and we have to create a repository of resources easily accessible to the public for referral and references. I was starting to put the puzzles together, one piece at a time, because that's the only thing that I know. And also, I only have a bird's eye view of what is going on in the Measure P and even iHeart. And so I was thinking if maybe in the long run, before my term will be expired in October, I can see the eagle's view, looking at every detail. And so I really appreciate what you're doing, both of you and even also my co-commissioners. That's all I can say. Thank you.
Through the chair, this is Regina. My question to you is I'm confused, I guess. Hold on, I need to. I'm confused on what you are looking for, or what do you want to see, Commissioner?
Would you repeat the question? We missed the beginning of it. Whom are you asking the question to?
The commissioner who just spoke. I'm asking. I'm confused on what she is looking to do. So, iHeart or Fulton Institute was contracted through a competitive procurement to run a program for Vallejo. And
Commissioner
we're looking
Brasino,
yes.
I'm sorry. She didn't have a question. She was just making a statement, an overview, and it wasn't. I don't know if you could hear it all, but there was not necessarily a question. She was just stating her her point of view and thanking them for their presentation overall.
Right. Right. No, and I agree. I'm just trying to understand it. So I'm missing something that I guess I just don't understand in her presentation.
What it is that you don't understand? Or you want me to
I guess what would you like to see happen?
Actually, I want to see the full. I only see a bird's eye view, and I want to see everything because I'm just new here. I just started attending this meeting just last May 20. I was sworn in last April 15. So I only knew a bit of what is happening, although I read a lot about iHeart and also what the police department are doing. I have nothing against with what they are saying. I'm just expressing my struggles and also doing some recommendation. It's a long-term recommendation, I know. So that's it. That's what I want to say.
And you're asking, like, not asking. You're saying that you'd like to see in general how all of the organizations work together in Vallejo? Because I agree. Because I don't see that either. But what is presented to us right now is a service that is going to be removed, and that's what my concern is, especially when I walk the streets of Vallejo, and I have 3 young children that I'm walking with them, and I feel better that iHeart is there if there's a need for someone in need of that. But I agree. Like, I don't know how all of the different organizations, and I don't know if there is a symposium to bring them all together, but that's a great idea to see how they can all interact and help each other to help build a stronger Vallejo in that sense, too.
Thank you, Commissioner Brazeno. I believe that Commissioner Santos was just making a statement on her position here as a commissioner. If we don't have any further statements from the commissioners, we can move on to a public forum statement.
For listening to my statement.
Through the chair, currently do not have any members of the public signed up for this item. If any members of the public online would like to speak, please raise your hand. Otherwise, feel free to carry on with the agenda. Chair.
Any members of the public? Comments? Then we'll carry on.
Through the chair, I'd like to recommend that we adopt the resolution that the city council authorizes 1.5 million 01,862 of Measure P funds to partially fund an agreement with Felton Institute for the iHeart program.
I second that motion.
Oh, now.
Chair Tibet,
Yes.
Vice Chair Jones,
Yes.
Commissioner Brazenio,
Yes.
Commissioner Gaddes,
Yes.
Commissioner Santos.
Yes.
The motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Gaddes, I just wanted to tell you that we had a little chuckle moment here. Commissioner Jones was about to make the motion, so he should be credited for it too.
Thank you, guys. I think you just missed me, I think is what it was. So.
Right.
Thank you. Thank you, Deputy Chief. Moving on to item C, adopting a resolution recommending or, in the alternative, not recommending that all presentations be limited to 15 minutes.
So moved?
Second.
Chair Tibet,
Yes?
Vice Chair Jones,
Yes.
Commissioner Brazenio,
Yes.
Commissioner Gaddes,
Yes.
Commissioner McDonald,
Yes.
Commissioner Santos.
Yes.
Carries.
Thank you. The last item on the action calendar is item D, adopting a resolution recommending or, in the alternative, not recommending the requirement of departments to report any funds that have not been used within 200 days of allocation.
I so move.
If I want to make an amendment to that, like, do I say adopt with amendment?
You can't,
So,
it's been moved by Commissioner Gaddes. You can ask to make an amendment before there's a second, yes. Yes, so go ahead.
I guess I'm asking.
Yes, please go ahead.
Report any funds that have not been used within the 200 days of allocation. Oh, it's just reporting. It's not actually taking them back. Never mind. I take back my amendment. I'll second it.
There we go.
Chair Tibet,
Yes.
Vice Chair Jones,
Yes.
Commissioner Brazenio,
Yes.
Commissioner Gaddes,
Yes.
Commissioner McDonald,
Yes.
Commissioner Santos.
Yes for me.
Carries. Thank you.
Thank you. Item 11 is future agenda items.
I don't know if this is a future agenda item, but so I logged on to the meeting 5 minutes early, only to figure out that I was on the wrong meeting because I looked for an agenda and it was the wrong one. And I didn't realize that it was a link versus the PDF, which we've gotten PDFs in the past. So I'm just asking if we can just be consistent. If we're going to send PDFs, that's awesome. Just send the PDFs via the email. If we're only going to send links, just send links. Because when it's two, I seem to be looking at different things. And I ended up being, 10 or 15 minutes late to the meeting because of just trying to find the right link. And thank you, Manny, for helping me. I appreciate you.
Through the chair, no worries, Commissioner Brazenio. And going forward, I'll be more than happy to work with you on showcasing where some of those links for each specific meeting are located. I think the confusion was the fact that there are two different Zoom links, one for the council chambers and one for the Vallejo room. And given your last meeting was in the Vallejo room, I can see the confusion there. So thank you for your patience, and going forward, we'll be as clear as we can to get that information out to everybody.
A question to the staff. When is our next meeting?
Next meeting is scheduled for Monday, June 9th, and we do have a confirmation from Vallejo together for a presentation that evening.
Okay. We don't have any action items? Nothing. Okay.
Not as of now.
And no requests from the staff as of now? And no requests like Measure B
Correct.
funding? Thank you. Any suggested agenda items that you would like to see here?
I would actually love to hear from youth programs in our community, especially things from the school district. So if there are programs that maybe summer programs or things like that that are supporting the youth, that often, especially during summer when there's very little programming, not a lot of things for youth to do, and to keep them off of the street and keep them engaged, I would like to see some presentations from.
Commissioner, you're talking about presentations from organizations that you would like to see Measure P funds go to?
Yes.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure I
Thank
understood.
you. Yes.
Thank you. Are there any other comments or suggestions? If not, I will say that this is the second shortest meeting we've ever had. The first one was a no quorum call, so we left 5 minutes after the meeting started. We will adjourn. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great night.